Hello, my name is David Barreto, and today I want to present the Uniswap governance model. And I picked Uniswap because many of the big protocols or Web3 applications, they use a very similar model to what Uniswap has, which is inspired by Compound. So by understanding Uniswap, you're going to understand the governance model of multiple dApps in the space. So if you have never used Uniswap or never heard of it, Uniswap is a decentralized exchange, also called a DEX, that is available on multiple blockchains, although it was born initially on Ethereum. You can see on the right side a screenshot of how this exchange looks like, right? You define the two coins or tokens that you want to exchange, and it will tell you the rate, and it will charge you a fee of, I think, 0.3% for the service of exchanging the two tokens. It's one of the oldest and most well-known DeFi project. That's one of the reasons that I chose Uniswap to explain this governance model and not something like Compound, even though Compound inspired this governance model for Uniswap, just because I think more people have used Uniswap in their daily day with Web3 than Compound. Compound is a lending protocol. Uniswap is in the top 5 of DeFi protocol with over $7 billion in TVL, or total value locked. So this gives an idea of the importance of this protocol in the space. And its governance model is, as I mentioned, is inspired by Compound, and it uses the Uni token for voting mostly. So this governance controls the settings on the protocol, things like the reward structure, and also for funding other related projects as well, among many other things. It's important to keep in mind that this governance only applies for the backend, for the smart contracts, not for the front end. And there was a whole, let's say, discussion when Uniswap decided to make changes to the front end without submitting that proposal to a vote. And they claim that the governance is only for the smart contract and not for the front end, because at the end you can build an alternative front end to use the same backend, and you will have back the functionality. The functionality was not removed from the smart contract, it's only removed from the front end. I'm gonna link all these articles in the description of the video so you can read more about this incident. So if we look at the Uniswap's governance workflow, it has 3 main phases. The first phase is a temperature check. So let's say that you want to propose a change to the protocol. Let's say that instead of charging 0.3%, you want the protocol to charge 0.4%, okay? So the first step is to create an article on Discourse. And we're gonna talk more about Discourse. This is the place where discussion about proposal happen. And then you will use, they will use a snapshot to see what's the sentiment of the community. The snapshot is a way for off-chain voting. We're going to talk more about snapshot later, but just keep in mind that it's a way of voting that is off-chain, so it's free. So to submit a proposal for a temperature check, the first stage, you don't need to have any Uni token, right? It's open to anyone. So this snapshot voting it has to be open for 2 days for vote. And because it's on a snapshot, it doesn't cost anything. People can vote for free. They just have to sign a message. And for the proposal to pass to the next phase, it will have to receive at least the yes option, at least 25,000 Uni tokens, right? So at least token holders who collectively own 25,000 tokens will have to vote yes on your proposal. So it moves to the next phase, which is the consensus check. So this phase is very similar to the previous one. The idea is that you, on Discourse, you put again the proposal, maybe modify based on comments that you received in the previous phase, right? So changing some descriptions, some details, maybe to make it more appealing to the community. And again, you don't require any minimum amount of unit to submit a proposal for the consensus check. In this case, the voting length has to be extended from 2 days to 5 days, so more people have time to react to it and decide. Again, it uses also Snapshot for voting, so it's off-chain. is gasless, so it's free. But now, for the proposal to move to the next phase, then the next and final phase, you will need to collect at least 50,000 unit tokens voting yes on the proposal, right? So the bar is higher this time. And if the proposal passes this phase, now it gets to the final phase, the governance proposal. And this governance proposal, it's a little bit different. It starts again with another entry on Discourse describing the proposal, again collecting all the changes and all the comments from people from the two previous phases. You provide also links to previous discussions so people have some context of the evolution of the proposal. But now the vote doesn't happen on Snapshot. Now it happens directly on Uniswap's interface, and it uses Uniswap's smart contract. We're going to see which smart contract it's using. It's inspired by Compound, so it's using Governor Bravo. That's the name of the smart contract. But now the requirements for this proposal because now if it passes this phase, it is now approved, and it has as a result something is executed on some of Uniswap smart contract to implement those changes. So now, even to submit a proposal for this stage, now you will need to have 2.5 million unit tokens, which is 0.25% of all the supply of unit tokens. So now you need to have some backing on your side. The voting length is now 7 days instead of 5, and now the voting is on chain. So it means that it's not free. Now, if you want to vote, you're gonna have to pay for Ethereum gas fees that, depending on how busy the network is, could be expensive. I don't know how much expensive, but it is not free. But now, for the governance to pass and now to be enacted and approved, you will need to get 40 million unit tokens voting for the yes option, right? Or the proposal you're trying to put through. And that is 4% of all the unit tokens in circulation. This 4% is becoming almost like a standard in different protocols. So it's not uncommon to see other DeFi projects using the same numbers. Although the number of tokens vary based on the supply of the token, but the percentage is usually the same. So you finally get all these votes, and after the 7 days, and all's good, the proposal passes. It doesn't get automatically executed. It's going to be a 2-day delay. So there's a time lock that controls when the proposal can be executed. Because one thing is that when you submit a proposal, you not only describe what you want to do, you have to submit the code that will execute the changes that you're proposing, right? So this Solidity code that is going to get executed. And you're limited to submit maximum 10 actions, right? You cannot do more than 10 actions in a single proposal. And because you need to write code, and this code is going to get executed on the smart contracts of Uniswap, this is very delicate and dangerous, right? So this code needs to be first reviewed by a security firm, so a security audit by some well-known company that's in the space. And only when this security audit comes up positive, saying that there's no risk, is that you can submit the proposal for governance vote. And if it passes, now this code gets executed after 2 days. And now, so the change gets implemented. So this is the whole flow at a very high level. And you can see that there's no need to trust someone in particular. It's just the governance works autonomously, right? So this is the decentralized autonomous organization. We have talked about platform, right? We talked about Discourse being the place for having discussions about proposal. So Discourse is a forum-style web app for discussions centered on specific topics. You can see some screenshots to the right. You can see a proposal here. You can see here a summary of the proposal in the middle, and you can see some comments people start giving on the proposal. Discourse is open source, so you can grab the code and deploy your own instance that you can use independently for any other project. Although they offer a hosted service for a fee if you want to save some time and you don't care about delegating this responsibility to a third party. It is very popular with crypto projects, but it's not exclusive to Web3. So Discourse can be used for discussion of many different kinds. think of some kind of a Stack Overflow that you can now host yourself. In order to be able to vote and even to make comments, you will have to have a Discourse account, right? So this is not your web wallet. It's just you need to have a different account just to even to submit a proposal as well. So you can use Discord without a crypto wallet. That's the whole point, right? Although if you can support governance model, you're more likely you also have a wallet. It's just it doesn't connect to Discourse. And a neat thing is that you can configure how you want Discourse to look like. So the color palette, right? So it matches the branding of your decentralized application. So we can just click here briefly, so give you a rundown how Discord looks like. At least this is the main website. You can see the hosting service, and you can see the link to GitHub to download the open source. But if you want to see how it looks like for Uniswap in particular, we can visit the Uniswap forum. And there we go. You can see it has different categories. And you can see the phases, the temperature check, the consensus checks. This is all the proposals. There are 51 proposals on the temperature check first phase, 23 in consensus, 160 and the proposal. And there's also a delegation pitch. We're going to talk more about delegation later, so we're going to go back to this. But just to check one of these early phases, let's take one proposal with a lot of views. Let's see this one. You can see this person submit this proposal to be discussed by the community, and then it's a long discussion, at least a long proposal, some summaries of how many replies, how many views, how many users, when it was created, and then you see comments from the community, right? So this is very useful. Sometimes the idea is to try to use this as a platform for comments and discussion, and not too much Discord, because Discord can be very disorganized and hard to collect people's thoughts in one place. Okay, so that's Discourse. The other platform that we discuss is a Snapshot, and you can see on the right side how it looks like. So a Snapshot is basically a platform for off-chain voting that uses crypto signatures. So instead of submitting a transaction to the blockchain, you're going to sign a message that describe your intention with your vote, like for which option are you voting. And this signature it's exclusive of you, because it's going to use the private key of your wallet to create this signature. So because it doesn't interact with a blockchain, with Ethereum, for example, you don't have to pay any gas fees. So this is a good alternative for community members. You know, if you want to spend money in a voting, because it uses signature, it's easy to prove the validity of each vote. And actually, the Snapshot provides an integration with another app that lets you verify each vote to see if it actually came from the wallet that it claims to be originated. So on a Snapshot, you create the proposal to vote on, but also you define how the voting system works. Like if it's going to be a single choice, like a yes, no, it's going to be like a multiple choice. They have other options as well. And it also lets you define what is going to be the voting strategy and how to calculate the results. You can use like the balance of an ERC20 token, like in the case of the Uni token. But you can also use like NFTs, right, for voting. Although it's not that common to use NFT, it's possible. Maybe some communities are using that. I've only ever seen using ERC20 tokens. And very normally is the balance. Like if you have 20 Uni tokens, it's like your vote has a weight of 20. We can navigate to a Snapshot. So you want to take a look at how it looks like. So this is a snapshot. You can see all the spaces, all the projects that are using it. If you go to Uniswap, for example, you can see how many members does it have. Now this is a Web3 app. So you can connect your wallet, because you will need your wallet to be connected in order to vote. And you can see, if you see a one that is closed, for example, you see not only the proposal, but you see a summary of the results. So you can see that 9.6 million Uni tokens we're used to vote for the yes option and only 400 for the no option. So almost unanimously voted for yes. And that's it. It's a simple, and you can see the top voters, right? The top holders of the Uni token and for which option they voted on. And you can verify their signature. Like if I click on this one, you can go to signator.io and it's gonna take the message and it's gonna verify its signature. So it's very easily cryptographically to verify a signature. You can see here that it's verified. So that's also called like sentiment signaling, the use of snapshots for voting. And yeah, so I show you how it looks like for Uniswap. So now why don't we look at one particular proposal from Uniswap and follow it through in the three phases and to see like what is the level of engagement, how many votes are they getting. So the one that we're going to be following was one proposal called, should Uniswap governance contribute funding to the Nomic Foundation? So basically they wanted to provide some money to the Nomic Foundation, which I think, if I recall correctly, they were the ones who developed our hard hat. So the idea was to try to support them economically so they can continue building more tools. And you can see that in the first phase, in the temperature check, the post on Discourse had 400 views and only 7 replies from 4 users. So not a lot of discussion happening. But then when it went to voting, the yes option received 2.5 million unit token, right? That's way more than is the minimum required, which is 25,000. We can take a look at the Discourse proposal here, right? And I'm getting these numbers in the summary in here, right? The 7 replies and 4 users. And then because it got so many votes for the yes option, it moved to the next phase. Now you get to the consensus check. And then it's another Discourse for post that gets created for the next phase. Slightly less views, less replies, 4 users, maybe the same 4 users. I haven't checked that detail. But in the voting, even though only 50,000 votes were required for the yes option, it received 9.1 million. I don't want to say votes, maybe just Uni tokens supporting the yes option. So way more than it was required. So it could move to now the final form, which is the governance proposal. Discourse very little, maybe because people were very clear about what is this about. There was nothing more to keep tweaking on the proposal. But now when it went to the Uniswap vote, it received 50.5 million Uni tokens for yes. And remember, the threshold is 40 million, so it was not that far off. But surprisingly, 12 million people or 12 million tokens used by token holders voting for the no option. So even though in the first 2 stages it seems to be like an overwhelming majority supporting this proposal, when you go to the final vote, more people pushed back, right? And if we go to the Uniswap vote, so you can see the interface, which is different from a snapshot. So there you have it. This is the proposal, right? You see the description and you see the details of the vote. So how many voted for or in support of the proposal and how many against. And you can see also what is the action that is going to be performed once the proposal passes and once the time lock, the 2 days, also expired. And what it does is just basically a transfer of Uni tokens to this wallet, and this is the amount of Uni tokens in using these 18 decimal places. And you can see here the proposal, which is, I assume, is almost the same as Discourse. But you can see there's no discussion, there's no comments, because that discussion is meant to happen on Discourse. This is just for voting. Of course, here I cannot vote because it was already executed and closed. But now you can get an idea how the UI looks like. And this voting, it actually happens on chain. It's not off chain, so you have to pay gas fees. Back to our presentation. So I briefly mentioned that vote delegation. And vote delegation is when you can select a person you trust to vote on your behalf, right? And this is important because one of the issues with decentralized autonomous organization is voting fatigue, right? People belong to many things. They have their life. They're busy. It's very hard for them to be on top of all the proposals that are being created, all the discussion, to have a clear idea of what is the best option to vote for. So what you can do is just, if there's someone in the community that you trust, you can delegate your voting power to them and trust that they're going to have your best interest in mind, or that your vision of how the protocol should work aligns with them. So this is kind of similar to what we call representative democracy, where you elect a politician to go to the Senate or the National Assembly or whatever the name is in your country, and this person now is gonna make decisions on your behalf. So you voted for them for a term of, let's say, 4 years, and those 4 years you hope that this person is gonna fulfill the promise they made during the candidate phase. The interesting thing about vote delegation is it can be revoked at any time, which is very different from representative democracy, where you have to wait until the end of the term usually. So even if the person now switches completely sides and start voting in a way much different that they promised, in a regular democracy, there's nothing really you can do. You're gonna have to wait and vote it out in 4 years. But in the vote delegation principle, you can revoke that at any time and just vote by yourself or to delegate to someone else. So this is one of the principles of the liquid democracy, which is a very interesting way to implement this democracy, where you can delegate at any time and revoke delegation at any time, and where you can have different people that you delegate your vote for different topics. This is principle for liquid democracy. In the case of Uniswap, it's just straightforward. You can only delegate to one person at a time. And an advantage for the person delegating is that when the time for the vote comes, well, you don't have to pay gas fees, because you only have to sign a message and say, hey, yes, I delegate my vote to this person. And it's the person who receives my delegated vote who gets to pay gas fees when they vote. So let's see how this delegation by signing a message works. So let's say that we have Alice and Bob. And Alice say, hey, Bob, I want you to vote on my behalf. So Bob says, sure, okay, so if you want that, you're gonna have to sign this message to prove it. So there you go, the message says, I delegate my vote to Bob. And what Alice needs to do now is to sign this message with their crypto or the private key of their crypto wallet and give this message signed to Bob. So this is like a very high level. If you go a little more detail how it works, what's going to happen is that Bob will need to have some kind of website for delegating, right? So anyone who wants to delegate votes to Bob can go to this website. So what Bob can do is it collects all these signed messages on his own database or storage facility. And once Bob has enough votes, he say, okay, this is enough. Now I actually want to exercise my vote in a proposal. So on a single transaction, Bob can send all these signed messages to one of a Uniswap governance smart contract, and the smart contract can validate that these messages are real. They're coming from the real people who held the tokens. So the vote that Bob cast is going to be accounted for not only for the tokens that he holds, but for all the tokens that was delegated or were delegated to him as well. And it on a single transaction, so it saved Bob some gas fees compared to sending one transaction per signature. So if you want to have an idea more visually of this delegation, there's an app called Tally that is very common as well among Web3 protocols, that is used for voting and also for delegating votes, but also for having statistics about how the vote went and how votes are being delegated. So in this screenshot in particular, you're gonna see we're looking at one particular person, Austin Griffith. I don't know who this person is. I just pick them at random, and you can see historically all the tokens that have been delegated to this person, right? And you can see the top advocates. So these are people who delegated their tokens or their voting power to Austin. And you can see that this person, for example, this person had almost 1% of all the circulating supply of the governance tokens for this particular protocol, which I don't even know. Oh, it was Gitcoin. And when you combine all the tokens that Austin had plus all the tokens that were delegated to him, so Austin has almost like 1.8% of all the votes or all the tokens available on a blockchain. We can take a little closer look at this link, so you have an idea of how Tally works. And let's wait until it loads. So there you have it. It's connected to Gitcoin. So you can see here the option to delegate a vote to Austin Griffith if you had governance token for Gitcoin. And this is the same information that I showed before. And you can also see, well, there's no recent votes, but you could see historically how Austin Griffith has voted on other proposals, right? So it's a lot of transparency going on. Imagine this available for your local politician. It's not easy to see for a local politician how they have been behaving over time, how their votes have been casted, at least not for me, not that I'm aware of. So yeah, principle of liquid democracy. Interesting as well on Tally, you can see what is the consequence of delegation, that you have big influencers, right, deciding the fate of a protocol. So again, this is fighting the voting fatigue. So you can see that people decided to delegate on a long-term basis their voting power to particular people. So you can see Austin Griffith is like the main influencer on this particular DAO. But you have other people as well, like Simona, Lefteris, and etc. So visually, you can see here how much voting power they have combined with all the votes that have been delegated to them. So if you get a little more technical, like how do you implement governance when it comes to the smart contracts? So usually, or at least the way that Uniswap implements this, and Compound and Balancer, you will gonna have three main smart contracts. So the first one is your ERC20 token that describe your governance token, like in the case the Uni token. This is an ERC20 token that needs to have extra plugins that are special for voting, right? And Open Zeppelin provides some of these extensions for that purpose. Then you will need another smart contract that is called the Governor, which is inspired again by Compound's Governor Alpha and Bravo. And Governor is the one that is the central smart contract that handles the actual voting and the proposals and counting the results, like deciding, okay, which proposal has won. Then you have another smart contract for the time blocks. As I mentioned, there's normally a delay apply once a proposal passes. It doesn't get implemented right away because you need to let the community to have a chance to react before a change gets executed. Let's say you strongly disagree with a proposal being approved, and you say, I don't want to belong to this community anymore. And before the change is applied, you can sell your tokens on the market, right? So you can exit before the change happens. So this is like a rage quit option. Or if, for example, a whale is able to control the result of a vote in a way that is negative for the whole community, so this gives a chance to the community to create a hard fork of the protocol and move to the new protocol because their protocol was taken over by a negative actor. But again, the time lock is optional. And then, of course, you have the target smart contract that you want to modify given the result of a vote. It could be like a multi-sig wallet, or it could be like Uniswap, the actual protocol. So the smart contract is controlled by the governance process. So you can create these smart contracts by hand, but the recommendation is that don't reinvent the wheel. If you go to Open Zeppelin website, they have a wizard where you can create all the smart contracts in a very easy way, just like a clicking around. And I can show it to you. It's very handy. So there you have it. Here you can create an ERC20 token that you can add the votes and the permit extensions. So you can use this for your governance token. So now you can just copy paste and deploy it, and then you have your governor contract, right? The one that is at the center of the governance protocol. And then you can also reconfigure, like use ERC20 votes or use NFTs, and use time lock or don't use time lock. So very easy. So you can use this even as a starting point. You can make small tweaks just to, at least to give the name that you want to your smart contracts and your tokens. Also as well, once you have this deployed, you don't have to create your own UI like Uniswap did. You can just use Tally, and Tally is compatible with this OpenZeppelin smart contract, so it's very easy just to plug them and to use them directly. So now you can have the power of the Tally interface, but in the backend, it's using your own smart contracts that are inspired or it came from OpenZeppelin. And also OpenZeppelin has a service called Defender that can be used to create proposals in a UI way, right? So you don't have to use the command line interface, so it's a little more user friendly for people to create not only the proposal but the actions that need to be executed when the proposal passes. Again, I'm gonna put all the links on the video if you want to check them out later. So governance, so all great, so good, it's all the rage right now, but let's talk about the risks and some of the mitigations. So one of the risks is flash loans. So the ability that you can borrow an immense amount of governance token on a single transaction, paying almost very little fees. And this in the past could have been used to turn an election around at the last minute, and it will be a very cheap attack to make. Of course, this has been mitigated by almost all the smart contracts, or for example, the governor smart contract is going to require that the voting power is not defined the moment of the vote, is defined before the proposal gets created, right? So it makes it harder for a hacker to you have to see the future to see, okay, I need to prepare for this. But if you do preemptively, the community will know that happened. So it has some mitigation with just by that. You have the risk of a whale taking over. Just this person has an insane amount of governance tokens, so they can decide whatever they want. One way to mitigate that is use quadratic voting. So in this case, instead of the voting power to grow linearly, it grows as the square root of the amount of tokens they have. Risk, again, is the voting fatigue. People start or stop participating, so you never hit the minimal quorum that you need for a proposal to even be considered. So the vote delegation is a way to fight voting fatigue. The negative vote results, like as we briefly mentioned, what happens if a proposal goes forward that is actually harmful to the community and somehow got approved? Well, that's why time locks exist, right? It's a way to give people a chance to exit the protocol, usually selling their tokens or doing a hard fork before the proposal gets implemented. And the other risk is that governance only controls the backend. It doesn't directly control the front end. So what happens when, like in the case of Uniswap, they decided unilaterally to modify the front end and delist some tokens, and I think they removed some like option trading. And so one solution is to keep that front end open source, so the community can create a fork of the front end that they control on their own, and they can deploy to some permanent storage like IPFS, so it cannot be modified, right? So this, sadly, there's no straight way to have governance for front end that I'm aware of, but at least having the front end open source and maybe having something, even something like RWIP, so it's a permanent place for the front end to live, could be a solution for it. So, okay, so in summary, popular Web3 protocols follow Compound's governance model. I show you Uniswap just because it's a common DeFi project, but Compound is like the inspiration for all these things. Before submitting a proposal for on-chain vote, check sentiment with off-chain voting. That is why Snapshot is very useful. It's the sentiment check, so people don't have to pay gas fees. Vote delegation fosters emergence of leadership within the community. So it's not only having these people with this influence, it's that these people now can drive discussions on Discord and rally people to be more active and to be aware of what's happening in the protocol. Suggestion: don't reinvent the wheel. Use Open Zeppelin's contracts and its wizard. I will highly suggest not try to write your own smart contract from scratch. Use one of them and just modify, tweak the things that you need to be different. As we have seen, there are some useful apps for governance. Discourse, Snapshot, and Tally are 3 of them. There might be more, but these are very commonly used. Submit to vote creation a community-driven and open source frontend. So this could be one of the early votes a protocol can have. It's just to fund the creation of an open source alternative of the frontend if the people behind the protocol are not, they didn't make the frontend open source, right? The community can do it anyway on their own and using some of the money in their funds. And also I mentioned that it's possible to vote with your NFTs instead of the ERC20 tokens. Maybe this will be more commonly used in the future. That's it. That's a summary of Uniswap governance model. I hope you find it useful. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.